have any problem with where the drives are, because they're eliminating the one that's closest to the intersection.
Well, that's what's happening.
They may need a variance between the two drives that they're proposing, because I think it's supposed to be 100 feet. They're off the close.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I would like to call this December 10th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting to order. I would ask you to turn off your cell phones and any other devices so not to disrupt the meeting. Anyone wishing to address the board, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. First thing on the agenda is approval of minutes from November 12th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or concerns on the minutes?
Thank you, Josh.
Hearing none, I'll call for approval vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The minutes are approved. Director Sheeline.
Yeah, I'm gonna make most people in the audience very unhappy right now. We have two continues tonight, Mr. President. The first one is case P14, P24, the petition of Lance McElroy on behalf of Arbor Homes requesting approval of primary plat for Bivens proper. This is south of Zartman Road, southwest corner of South Park Road. They did not get their advertising done correctly according to state statute, so we cannot legally hear the case tonight, so that case will be continued until our January meeting. So if you're here for that case, it will not be heard tonight, as well as the next case, case P15, P24, the petition of Mark Ridwell on behalf of D.R. Horton, Indiana, LLC, requesting approval of primary plat for Melody Farms. Again, they also did not get their advertising out correctly, so per state statute, we cannot legally hear the case. So both of those cases, case P14, P24, and P15, P24, have been continued until our January meeting. So the first case that we'll hear tonight, Mr. President, is case P27Z24, petition of J1 Industries America, LLC, requesting change in zone classification from PDM2 planned development to HI, high intensity industrial heavy manufacturing. I just have the parcel number right now. We don't have an address, so if you can read the parcel numbers in your packet. It's 5.75 acres.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there someone here to represent this case? Please step forward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Wyman, 1533 West Lincoln Road, Kokomo, Indiana. Here tonight on behalf of J1 Industries America. They're requesting to rezone 5.75 acres to high-intensity industrial. This property is currently connected to their existing property in which they are building their plant on to support the battery plant, as you know. They currently had been utilizing a little bit of this property during their construction process for storage of materials and those sorts of things as they've been working to get their operation up and running. And you probably recall us coming through in the last several months with Ferris Center LLC, and they kind of moved their whole project south in order to help accommodate J1 so they would have this growth opportunity. As you could imagine with the announcement of the second battery plant, J1 is a real integral part of the success of Star Plus Energy, and so having this extra acreage ensures that they can maintain their operations here in Kokomo, support battery plant 1 and 2, and even possibly support the battery plant up in New Carlisle from Kokomo as well with this additional land. So that's the purpose and the reason for the request. And to the north is already zoned high-intensity industrial. To the east is zoned high-intensity industrial. And to the south, the owners of Ferris Center LLC are in support of this as well. So thank you.
Any questions from the board before we have staff report?
One of the thoughts with the Ferris Center project was that it would create potential for walkability between the plant and the Ferris Center.
Yep.
Will this inhibit that, or will they allow?
Yep, absolutely. They'll all be working together on that.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board before we have staff report? Director Sheeline, please.
Staff report for case P27Z24, Paul Wyman on behalf of J1 Industries America LLC is requesting change in zone classification from PDM2 to HI, located within the office industrial agricultural overlay The rezoning will only apply to the portion of the parcel shown below. This lot will be utilized for expansion, will also need to be subdivided. Adjoining property zonings are to the north, high-intensity industrial heavy manufacturing, to the south, PD M2, a planned unit development multifamily residential, to the east, RR within the ag overlay, and to the west, institutional and R4 urban residential. According to the City of Kokomo Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map, this parcel is located in an area designed for medium-density residential. Medium-density residential is an area designated for single-family housing of varying types between 3 to 6 dwelling units per acre. Typical medium-density housing would be single-family detached duplexes, triplexes, condominiums, townhomes, and cluster housing. Land use goals to encourage orderly and responsible development to promote health, safety, and quality of life of residents in the City of Kokomo while maintaining Kokomo as a leading community for affordable housing. Relevant land use objectives are to encourage adequate land for residential, commercial, industrial, institutional, and recreational uses. Designate specific districts in the community suitable for residential, commercial, industrial, institutional, and recreational uses. The goal of the City of Kokomo Comprehensive Plan Transportation Map is to enhance connections throughout the city for improved safety, function, and efficiency for all modes of transportation, including vehicular, bicycle, and pedestrian networks. According to the transportation map, this area of North 100 East is defined as being a local street. A local street is a street designed primarily to provide access to abutting properties and discourage through traffic. The traffic count for this area of North 100 East is 2,945 cars per day. Staff desires that the board forward a favorable recommendation to the Kokomo Common Council.
Any questions from the board? Now we've had staff report. Any questions from the audience on this case?
Yes, sir. I had a gentleman brought me some diagrams from the 80s when the same area was being approved or considered for a landfill. And there were some hydrology studies done way back then, and they fought 8 years. And then they were successful to stop that landfill on the very same area that this is being considered here. So I have quite a few documents about all that. And my concern is when I was looking into it, because it says 100,000 tons of material. This is very new to our community, this kind of volume. The chemical is NMP, N-methylpyrrolidone, which is a developmental toxicant by the EPA. So I talked to the IDEM today about the permitting, and they're going to work with me, make sure, everything's up to stats on the permitting. But they said they can't even become involved until after this approval. So I'm just asking the board to please look into this chemical before you give this zoning change, because once it's changed, then that's a major push then to let it go ahead and happen in an area that I do have questions about for our groundwater. I'm very concerned about that, but thank you for your consideration. And but this material, just one more point, methylene chloride is the solvent that's been used in the industry a lot. That one's being banned now. And this one's kind of taking over in that area. It's more of an unknown. It's not been near as studied. So the EPA just banned 2 chemicals for the dry cleaning industry. It's called PERC and TCE. So these chemicals, I just want you to be aware, they're very, very toxic in ways that we don't even know yet. And this one's already determined to be a developmental toxin and cause miscarriages. So just, I would like to know, I don't know, Paul, do you know when they say 100,000 tons, does that mean yearly or what?
I can't speak.
Okay, because that's important to know,
And keep in mind, what we're looking at tonight is that extra 5 acres.
I understand, yes, sir, I understand.
That
Right.
may or may not even be expanded on, we're not even sure yet.
Right, I
They just
understand.
purchased that for possible
Right.
future expansion.
Exactly, I totally understand, this is different than battery manufacturing, this is chemical, dealing with volumes and volumes of chemicals. Yes, sir. So to know how many, is that 100,000 tons per year? Is it 100,000 tons for the life of the, chemical plant? That makes a big difference. So that needs to be, considered in this zone change, please.
Ma'am,
Thank
do
you.
we have your name and address?
I'm so sorry. Yeah, first name Ann, last name's 4 letters, IHMS, and it's 329 East Furman, Kokomo. Yep, thank you very much.
Clea Oliver, 5768 West, 0 North South. I don't want to upset anybody or make any issues, but it bothers me that things are handed out at this meeting and then you're expected to vote on it at this meeting. I don't think it gives you all time. You've all been looking through the paperwork, flipping back and forth and looking through it, and I don't think it really gives you time. I understand that.
It was just a map.
It's just a map.
Well, that may be, but,
That was
okay.
already
And they've got the
included in
same
what,
map in their packet, basically. so-
that we've had
Okay,
for a week.
okay,
Yeah,
all
we've
right.
had these for a week.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that, but, it just looked like, the things were voted on and explained tonight, so, okay, thank you.
My name is Ken Blackledge. I'm just wondering if this board has hired any independent expertise on a lot of what's going on here, independent from the people who are advocating for the projects, which involve a lot of chemicals, a lot of environmental potential damage. I'm hearing all sorts of things about potential water shortages and potential inadequate sewer facilities and all sorts of things. So I just wonder if this body is getting any independent now, independent advice from experts in the field without just going on what people are advocating that have a vested interest in it. Okay?
Mr. Blackwood, can we have your address, please?
Yeah, 814 Maplewood Drive, Kokomo.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience?
Donna Meyer, 1018 Blue Jay Drive, Greentown. J1 has already had a problem with IDEM, and it's case number 2024-14434 MPYA on the parcel that they already have, that they've constructed on, that they impacted, and it's a very small amount of 0.05 acre, which I realize that's barely nothing, but they have already, to me, not respected our county.
Counselor, I ask this question all the time, but when we get into this is just a zoning, is there any reason why, since we're just doing rezoning tonight, that the rest of that, all those questions would be answered, right?
As to a reason why they,
How could rezoning it make any difference as far as when the rest of the process takes place?
yeah, I mean, outside of our purview is pretty limited in scope in terms of what we're looking at tonight, and is really whether it
And-
fits. Sorry. So we're looking, basically, tonight is, this plan commission is a recommendation board, and so we recommend to the common council favorable or disfavorable recommendations, and then the common council hears that and votes in favor of the rezoning or not via an ordinance. And in this case, particularly, we're looking at whether it fits high-intensity industrial within the OIA overlay, which it's next to the battery plant. So all we're not looking at facilities, we're not looking at utilities. All we're looking at is if somebody wants to build a project that's high-intensity industrial, that's a permitted use under that zoning classification, does this property fit for that particular use? We don't look at the end user, and we don't look at any environmental impacts. We look at whether that particular usage fits the area and whether it's in conformance with the comprehensive plan. That's what we look at.
Correct me if I'm wrong, TJ, before anything were to get built here, they'd still have to go through the proper primary and final plats and design and development boards and all that.
And permitting before they could operate anything in.
So it still has to
above and
follow
beyond.
everything in order to build. This is just to rezone for future potential to build.
Correct.
Marcia Blackledge, that was my husband, 814 Maplewood Drive. I would ask that you, as the zoning board, put a recommendation to the next body that you're passing this on to, if you pass this, that they hire a independent person that is qualified to look at some of these issues. If it starts at this level, which all of you here are residents of, and we're all going to suffer if we make the wrong decisions, you make that recommendation, it is a little bit of a push to the next level up to do their due diligence. Not saying they won't, but everyone that stands up and says, hey, could you hire someone independent, not the people that are here to make money or here to, quote, bring jobs or just get this variance, but please, if you could just add that recommendation, I think that would be a big blessing to this community. Thank you.
You talked about the process to go through this. Okay, the process is it goes through here, then it goes to the Coastal Plan Committee, or council, correct?
Correct.
I was told by a council member and through the attorney that they can't really turn it down once you guys give it a favorable recommendation.
That's not true.
Unless,
That's
okay,
not true.
that is
tell
false.
tell
It's
me,
happened before.
okay,
Yes,
well, and it has happened before.
it has.
But what's the next process it goes through? I think, different things,
What do you mean the next
well,
process?
it goes to Coastal Council,
If
what's the-
council approves it, it's rezoned.
and that's it, rezone.
For the
Okay.
rezoning, yes.
Then as far as,
If they decide to build on it down the road, then they have to get subdivided, go through site plan, just like.
which goes through your office?
Comes back
through
here.
this- It goes through
Back
this
here?
board, absolutely.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
when they get to that point.
okay.
Because I don't think they're ready, if I remember, they're not, they're getting this 5 acres, it was to help out the other, it's kind of a swap between the two entities out there, and they're not sure, my understanding was, they're not sure that they're going to expand. They are going to expand at some point in time, they're just not sure when.
Yeah,
So
well,
I don't think it's going to happen right away, is my
So
understanding.
is any of this going through, affiliated with the IEDC?
Do what?
Is any of this affiliated with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you know of, okay,
Not
because
that I'm aware of.
there are 293 acres up there that
Correct.
they own.
Correct.
And once it gets to them, it's out of y'all's hand. Because
Well, I,
they're,
Wrong.
Let me
That's
make
wrong.
something real, that's not
wrong.
true, that's not
okay,
true.
okay,
But let me make something very clear here. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I can tell you one thing. Is there a lot of stuff going on out there? Absolutely. That's what happens when you have major development in your city. There's a lot going on. There's no question about that. But I can also tell you without reservation, this is the most looked at, watched development that I've ever been involved in. From the local level to the state level to the federal level. There are different levels looking at this particular development that hasn't been looked at other developments since I've been involved here. That's just
Well-
the bottom line. Do mistakes get made? Absolutely, we're all humans.
Yeah.
But just like the one lady said, okay, there was a problem with IDEM. Well, evidently IDEM caught it and it's gonna get fixed. So that's why you have these other entities looking at all of these. The locals can't do it all. I mean, there's so many state permits that they have to get for this out there. It's unbelievable what they have to go through to get all this looked at from the state and federal government, so.
and the reason I'm saying this, because there's been comments made by legislators that once, where were the people at when all this started? Where the public meetings, were held and stuff like that. And they were, but it's very generic, on what is actually said. In
What do you mean, the public hearings that the plan commission had?
well, in the paper, they're kind of generic. It's, they're wanting, and I can't name all of them right offhand, but, well, just like the Kokomo Economic Development Corporation, or committees. You know, it doesn't really say they're wanting to do this, but it may not say for a battery plant or for a recycle or whatever. It's kind of generic, so,
For Kokomo?
yes, I've got them listed out at home.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so, and this goes back years, you know. I was looking through the Tribune, some archives, and a lot of that, it's in there. I mean, even the resolutions, I think it was like 2022-07, I think is one of them that I off the top of my head, you know, for some of this. There was one back in 2021. But I think a lot of this has been instigated because of the LEAP project over in Lafayette. You know, because the IED gets involved, and they, being a quasi-public entity, their transparency is almost nil until after everything's done. After everything's decided, and then they go, oh, here's the reports. Right now, I printed out, since 2005, I printed out, I know it's pages 69 through 292 of different contracts the IEDC has had. So, I mean, like I said, it's, when they own land up there, a lot of that, I think, and I'm not saying it doesn't come through the office, but a lot of times some things are already decided before it even gets to the public.
Well, I don't get what you're saying, Clay. Nothing's decided before it gets to this board. This board has turned things down before.
Yeah.
This board in my office is about as transparent as you can get. And it infuriates me when people act like we're not transparent. We get calls every day from the public asking us questions. Jessica can attest to that. We answer every question that we can. If anybody wants to come in and look at plans, they're always available. We have never tried to hide anything. If that's what people are insinuating, it's absolutely not true.
Well, I'm not saying.
Okay.
And I agree with you, Greg. I mean, I know you very well, and I feel like that you're that way, you know, but it's just, again, you know, sometimes perception is that way, and I appreciate that, and I know you've been very good about answering, you know, my questions and stuff anyway, but anyway, I just wanted to, you know what the next process was, you know, after all this, so, okay,
I got one question.
yes.
You kind of confused me when you said a city councilman said that once we voted yes, they couldn't do anything about it. That makes zero rules. If anything, is the opposite is true. We can sit here and vote no tonight and go to city council, and they can vote yes.
They can vote yes.
We, it's,
Yeah.
They're making it either a favorable or
Yeah,
an
it's-
unfavorable recommendation, and
So-
they have the prerogative as a legislative body to make
They're
their
not a
own decision.
legislative body, that's the issue.
You know,
They're not a legislative body.
City council
City
City council
council,
not legislative.
that drafts
The
ordinance?
commissioners are, as a legislative body, but I
You're saying
know.
that the city council is not legislative when they pass ordinances that become local, basically statute?
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm just going with what I've been told from a member and.
who's the member?
The county council is not a legislative body. The city council is. It's the two very different roles.
Yeah. But anyway, we can address that later, I guess, you know. And-
oh, yeah, thank you. I just,
at the end of the day, I mean,
power to put any kind of condition on everything.
we could make this decision independent of who's
I don't
gonna
think we
use
do.
it.
He does.
Yeah, the BZA.
But we don't even have to consider whether it's J1 or who it is. We are doing this based on the property location with respect to the adjoining properties. Does it make sense to rezone this industrial? And that's the end. That's the
how I-
end of what we're doing tonight.
Right, that's how I feel my role is, just when I understand some things about groundwater, just to share with you all, because it's so important what decision you are making. Your input on this is what does help others make decisions on it. So that's why, when the gentleman that brought me all the documents about the landfill, this was back in 1979, by the way, and he said he thought the county commissioners would have known this information about The Tudor drain, you probably have all heard of that. And then the problem that he has with it now is he said, how was it not okay to put a landfill there, but now it's okay to put these massive production sites in? So that's what he's asking me. And so I'm just trying to convey, my concern. And when I know our groundwater, I'm working with the EPA right now. We're hoping to have a public meeting next spring about our groundwater situation. They tell me we can't do anything until it's identified who's the source of the contamination. Like, who's going to do that? Well, I guess us local people are going to have to step up to the plate and do that, because that's been since 2009 that's been identified as a Superfund site. So us local people do have to take some more to push the big agencies. We can't rely on them, to give us all the jobs to do about it, or we have to help them get this going. So we can't keep ignoring it, is all I'm saying. And we can't just say, oh, they're going to take care of it. It's our job too. So you guys have a huge role in all this, and I really appreciate what you're doing, and thanks for listening. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, the difference between a landfill and this would be the secondary and tertiary protections that are required under their permitting for whatever their chemical might have to do. And that's all handled at the federal and state level. That's not necessarily a Kokomo thing. They have to get their permits from IDEM and EPA independent of Kokomo.
But if we don't have the know-how to handle it locally, that's the issue.
Well, not to pat myself on the back, but I know what I'm looking at. I know what a protection area looks like. So, now whether or not it meets EPA code, I'm going to let EPA guide me on that. So,
Hi, Robin Merchant, 1705 Boca Raton, Kokomo. I've got 45 years of experience in the wastewater industry, and I had to vet a lot of these projects for communities that I managed. And I think part of the big pushback on this battery plant and everything else that's taken place since it was publicly announced is the fact that a large portion of this facility was not vetted like a normal project would have been because of the dollar amounts and the people that were involved and the lack of public input. If they had vetted this project, they would have known they did not have adequate water supplies for what they wanted to build there. They had enough water supply for one plant, not for two. That's why they're out scouring the countryside trying to find water. And then there's wastewater issues as well. So the reason why you are getting some public pushback and inquiries is because of how this thing was all started. And it's obvious that it was not done properly. I mean, there's nobody in the right mind that would have picked this site knowing that they didn't have water availability for the total of the project they wanted to build.
I welcome the pushback. I welcome the people here. I think a lot of people are under the impression that this board has the power to do things that
Well, no.
people are suggesting that we can't do.
Yeah, this is the starting point, and that's why we're here, so.
So,
Just
case in
want to
point.
voice our concerns, so, I understand, you guys can, redesignate this another, for other development, but there needs to be something said at the very beginning, otherwise we
I agree,
wait 2 or
I
3
agree.
levels, and then
True,
all of a sudden
true.
it's approved, and
So,
we're right back to where we were with the battery plan and not knowing for sure what it's going to impact with our community and then future development. If we don't have enough water for 2 plants, how are we going to have water for additional housing that we need to have and other developments? And it's almost like we've jumped out of an airplane, perfectly good airplane, without a parachute, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to land. Everybody's scrambling. We had to scour the countryside. They had to put a gas pipeline in for it. Duke Energy scrambling to try to upgrade their facility so they have ample power for it. And it's just like everybody, even the contractors out there, are behind the 8 ball constantly because it wasn't well planned. And that's our main pushback. It wasn't well planned, and now we're throwing more money at it, and when we haven't even found the resources for the initial phase of the project. So.
appreciate the input. One thing I'd like to clarify, this board cannot put any conditions on our vote. We don't have that power. We either vote for yes, we can rezone it or not. We can't rezone it if you do. We can't do that. So we don't have that option.
But the conditions really, if you think about it, are really on the site plan when that comes at a later time.
That's correct.
I'm talking about this meeting, not this meeting.
Yeah, I get
Right.
it, this meeting.
So the thing what I'm hearing, and the thing is that you all want to pass the buck to somebody else to do the policing of what needs to be done for this site.
No.
And
we're not saying
if you give it approval, you are giving somewhat of a green light to the development that that many of us think is dangerous and a negative impact on this community. So you're saying it's out of our hands.
I'm telling you that what this book says, which is our guideline,
No, I'm just saying,
I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm not passing the buck to anybody. I take this job as serious as anybody on this board.
Okay.
And I work hard at it. 365
I'm not-
days a year.
I'm not questioning that.
365 days a year. Now, I think everybody here had a good point. What I'm trying to tell you is, I don't disagree with any point you're making. We don't have the power to make any changes on what
you
you're
have the
presenting.
power whether it's zoned differently or not.
And
Correct?
That's true. And Counselor can tell me right now, I can't vote no just because I don't like it. I can't vote no because I think it might be bad. I
Okay,
can't do that.
I think
have
I
to
think
go
the
by
rest of
this.
us are bringing up the point that the zoning that they're requesting is not proper for the property involved and for the resources involved.
So what would
and
you
that-
like us to rezone it to?
I don't, whatever, not
High
to the high industrial.
Is what the zoning has
Well,
to be.
that's
for
your
any of
judgment,
that.
okay?
Crystal plants are all high industry.
That's your adjustment. I mean, your judgment.
No,
okay?
that's what the ordinance says, not mine.
It says you have to zone it.
Pardon me?
Then you have no decision, right? You're saying you have to zone it high industrial. Is that correct?
For
Is
what
that what
they
you're
want to
telling
do,
me?
yes.
For what they
For
want to do?
what they want to do there. it
Okay,
has to-
suppose
it's
we are
no
saying-
different than- It's no different than a Chrysler plant.
Okay, but what we're saying is, what they want to do is harmful to this community, and you're saying you don't have any responsibility to stop that.
I'm done with this
What
conversation.
we're saying is that the opportunity to build what they want to do hasn't even come yet. It's a future decision. What we're looking at is mathematical and science. Can 5 acres support high-intensity industrial? If the answer is yes, then we have to vote yes. If the answer is no, then we vote no.
And then you attend your
Period.
city council meeting, and everyone in here has a city council person. If you live in the city of Kokomo, you can reach out and attend those meetings. Call your city councilman, call your county commissioners, and that's where your facts, your findings, your thoughts, your feelings, that's where you lay it on the table too. Well, however, anything that you have, because some people are passionate and it's running through emotion or through facts that they've brought up, that goes to your elected officials. We're appointed, and we strictly go by that book.
Why do you say that what's in that book, why are you going to vote then? If it's already decided, why would you vote? And what we're asking you to do is,
It's not decided. What they want is for the opportunity for future expansion. As of right now, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, there are no planned developments. It's just for future development, and I believe it says in here for future development. If I'm not mistaken, somewhere in here, I think it says future development. They're not planning to
So,
build anything.
if you
If they
vote-
are, it comes back here again. They have to go through site plan approval, development plan approval. They meet with John's office and they figure out all the ground contamination, the runoff contamination, the watershed, the drainage, the sewers, the utilities. All that gets figured out with John and the utility companies. That is not even on the books right now.
I understand that. What I'm hearing, though, is that you all could stop it tonight by voting no.
You have to have a violation or a reason that they did not meet within that book. And as of right now, they've dotted every I, crossed every T as far as what this goes, what they say has to go in there. I can't assume something's gonna go bad. I can't assume there's not enough water. That's not what we do.
If our groundwater is poisoned, who do we see? Do we see anybody on this council who voted yes
This is not a
tonight?
council.
Well, it's board.
This is a board.
Yes, and you are a citizen of this county. And you have many experts here. I'm just a citizen, but you have a water expert, you have another water expert, and they're telling you, red flag, red flag. And what you're saying back in return is, we can't do anything. And I simply don't think that's true. I think you do have the power to say no, or tell them to come back in 6 months. Meet with the public. That would be my recommendation.
Any other comments from the audience? I'm welcome to hear anything you got to say, dear.
I'm a little confused because
Correct me if I'm wrong, this building already exists and this production plant's already in
Yeah.
operation.
This
right?
would just be an correct.
It's an
Parcel to
expansion
the
of
north
what's
of
already
it
there.
is already.
Yeah, the
in
expansion
operation.
isn't, but
They just want future expansion.
there's
capability.
35 acres to the north where it's
Oh,
essentially
no,
the same
It's
thing.
already in production, they're already.
I don't know if they're in production yet, but
They're in
No.
production. They're supporting the facility right now.
And so this, what you're saying tonight here is actually already in development, or it's already in production. 35 acres is already moving forward.
Well,
So we're only
honey,
voting
I've been
5
contacted
acres.
by Soul Brain to check the wastewater. So, I mean, I've been involved in this, so
Soul Brain's a
this is,
separate company,
I
separate
understand that,
parcel.
sir. But that's part of this whole development. That's why Jaiwan's here.
We can't.
You don't think Jaiwan's here by accident?
Right, but Soul Brain is Soul Brain, J1 is J1.
I
We're
understand
looking at
that, sir, but do you
J1.
understand?
I don't care what happened with Soul Brain.
They-
That's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at J1 and this damn near 6
You
acre.
just, right,
parcel.
this
it.
100,000 tons of chemical material,
It's already there.
It's there. They're running right now.
and
Jaiwan.
the mere existence of that does not necessarily mean that there's going to be contamination. That's the key.
I'm sorry, sir. I live right across the street from 300 acres that are contaminated.
When
And
was it
so
contaminated? 1960, 1965?
we didn't learn from it. You heard that from the last zoning meeting, when the
We-
chief of
we've learned
police.
from it. I mean, they're required to do secondary protection, tertiary protection. There
Accidents
are levels
happen,
of
sir.
protections that didn't exist.
Accidents happen.
Well, sure. I mean,
And do you know what this material does in water? It's miscible in water. That means it's not a layer. It's very hard. Once you get it in your groundwater, do you know that's one of the areas that's the source of Kokomo's groundwater? This whole area, that's why I'm asking you, when you kind of said it doesn't matter that it wasn't okay for a landfill would be safer than a spill from a manufacturing plant like this. Manufacturing chemical plants are monitored, as you said, very tightly by the EPA, but the site is what is very critical. That is a major source of our groundwater from that location. And that's why it's been a shock to me that we didn't understand that when this all transpired. So I'm sorry, I didn't know what was happening. I would have spoke out sooner. I did not know. The farmers did not know. They were told they had to sell land and then they held out for a long time, which I really admire with them. But now some of them are very concerned too, what they're seeing, because this is not an appropriate place for chemical manufacturing. I'm from the St. Louis area. There's manufacturing of chemicals there. I know a lot about manufacturing. My husband's a PhD chemist sitting right back there. We know a lot about chemical manufacturing. This location is not an appropriate place for chemical manufacturing. So that's all I'm trying to convey. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other comments from the audience? Any questions from the board?
Yes, I have one.
Please.
I'm going to ask this. Can we put this on hold till the next meeting so some of us here can, on some of the things that we've heard, do some more homework?
It'll be up to the petitioner, which is represented by Mr. Wyman.
Our preference is to hear it tonight, but I mean,
So it's really their call, petitioner's call.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of case P27Z24, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Roll call, please.
Gotta find my roll call sheets, not sure where they are, hang on a second.
I have extra ones.
I found them.
Back at
So
you.
Ms. Barker is not here, correct?
Correct.
Ms. Durham,
Nay.
Ms. Stover,
Nay.
Mr. Graves,
Aye.
Ms. Jefferson,
Aye.
Ms. Rule,
Aye.
Mr. Grieco,
Aye.
Mr. Pike.
Aye.
The President does not have to vote because it's a 5-3 yes.
The motion is approved, 5-3. It now goes to the Kokomo City Council and presented there by Councilman Grieco.
Should be 5-2, I thought.
5-2, I'm sorry.
5-2, correction, 5-2.
5-2, I'm sorry. I had Kelly as a,
You can't vote for
Tell me the wrong number.
that was my fault.
The next thing on the agenda is the TIF improvements.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. Sent out to you prior to the meeting was TIF Plan Commission Order Number 2024-05, which is a order of the Plan Commission pursuant to finding that the Redevelopment Commission's resolution confirms in all respects to the plan of the development of the city. So the RDC's resolution basically expands the current industrial park 2 parcels north, which fit onto the second battery plant of the entire TIF's rather large, but the 2 parcels are approximately about 14 acres in total. So we're just expanding a little bit to the north, and then
Those run parallel to the north side of 300.
they do, yes, the north side of 300, and then where the city is moving Smith Road north of those parcels to conform with that. So this will stick them basically, once Smith Road is reconfigured and reconstructed, it'll stick those 2 parcels just north of where the second battery plant is going to be.
Correct. I'm sorry, did we get your name and address?
Put your name on.
I'll use 11. Is there any questions from the audience on the TIF? Any questions from the board? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of TIF order number 2024-05, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. It now goes to Common Council, presented there by Councilman Matt Grieco. Other business, Director Sheeline.
I have no other business tonight, Mr. President.
Down there?
I move to approve claims of $24,023.70.
Second.
We have a first, motion and a second for approval of claims. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The claims are approved. County got a meeting.
There is no
Nope,
meeting
no
with the
county.
county plan commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for coming.